Hi, everybody.
I left London when I was 24. I got a job in Chicago that I just loved. I worked for the AMA, American Medical Association. They had a publication called JAMA, and I worked for one of the senior editors there, and I just loved that job. While I was there, I met a woman. We became fast friends. I realized that I had not fulfilled the promise to myself to travel the country. I came here to see the country, and I'd seen New York and I'd seen Chicago, and that was it. And so I made a decision that I was going to leave Chicago, leave this job, and travel. I told my friend Terry, and she said, "I'm coming with you." I said, "Okay." We got to San Francisco. She started disappearing on me at night. And what I learned was that she was visiting DOB, Daughters of Bilitis. And I recognized that I was having feelings about her being gone. I was clearly in love with her. We were in love with each other. And so that was my, what I would call, awakening, and recognizing that this was more than a friendship. This was, we were clearly in love with each other. And it was like a rebirth or something. And so the big question then was, well, where do I fit? And I'm Jewish, and I was an athlete. And so I had all these, identities that were sort of swirling around, and the big question was, where am I going to find my people? I feel that I am a woman, first and foremost. I'm a lesbian identified woman. I clearly love women. It was clear that I'd never had that whole thing with men, and I wasn't going to have it, but I could have it with women.
Yep.
I was born and raised in London, England, and my parents were first generation British, but my grandmother, who was from Russia, lived with us and only spoke Yiddish, and she was what we would call an observant Jew. I remember being a child and going out into we had a little garden in the back of the house, and I went out to the garden one day, and there was this fork sticking out of the soil, and I couldn't figure out what it was doing there, and I pulled it out and went into the house. I must have been 5. And I pulled it out, I went into the house and said, "Look, I found a fork in the garden." And my grandmother went berserk in Yiddish. Because this was the way that you purified a utensil that had been used for the wrong purpose. That's a little anecdote from what it was like to grow up in a kosher household. I had an uncle who was a professional photographer. My sister and I became the focus of many of his photographs. I have this photo of myself, and I'm maybe 4 or 5 years old, sitting on a tricycle, and I'm like gripping the handlebars, and I've got this look that I can only describe as that grim determination. And when I look at that picture, it's like I knew who I was right then. It's like, don't mess with me. And so while I was very young, there was clearly something in me that was different from other little girls. I was quite well known in the Jewish community because I was rare. I was a Jewish jock, and there aren't that many women. And I'd already achieved international status. I'd represented England, and I was regularly written about in the Jewish weekly publications. So everyone in Jewish London knew me. It was a gay march, an LGBTQ march in London. The press reported didn't happen, and I can't keep my mouth shut. I wrote a letter and said, of course it happened, and I know that it happened. And so I outed myself to Jewish London. It was painful. I brought it on myself, but it was painful because it was sort of, this was my new world, this was my courageous new world, and I left all that behind, but my reputation was still there, and people thought of me in a certain way, and suddenly I'm a lesbian. I'm a Jewish lesbian. I'm no longer, you know, the pride of the Jewish sporting world. I think my feminist identity has always been my strongest identity. I've been angry my whole life. The expectations for me as a Jewish girl in London were ones I could never have met. I was outspoken, I was athletic, I was feisty, I didn't dress the way they wanted me to. When I came here, it was to liberate myself from all those expectations. I remember going to Terry's home in Defiance, Ohio, and the first thing she gave me was a pair of cut-off jeans. I'd never seen a pair of cut-off jeans. This is what I've been waiting for my whole life.
Oh my God.
You're still very lesbian.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know.
Don't you worry, we're holding it down.
And I realized that I could influence other women and other men with my opinion. I started to feel like I had some power. Power is something that as a young woman you don't assume at all. No one's going to give you anything. You got to take it. You just got to take it. You got to say, no, this is who I am, this is what I think, this is how we're doing this. Find your inner power, you find your voice. When you find your voice, then you get the power. Then you're saying to people, and particularly in my community, which was very male dominated for many years, you know, when I found my voice, people listened. And then you get power. The senior executive came up to me and said, well, we see what you can do, and we'd like to offer you a promotion as a field auditor. You're a single woman, this is the perfect job for you. And I said, because I'm a single woman doesn't mean I live my life in a vacuum.
Right.
I'd already been a member of Shar Zahav, I had a community, I had friends, I loved my life in San Francisco. And so I left the company after 17 years working for them. I think when Ms. Magazine came out, when the first issue of Ms. Magazine came out, I think I felt that women's voices were finally being heard.
It started to give women language to put to their feelings and
And
to be able
a
to
voice
voice
out
it.
to the world, and a skilled voice. These writers, we're
100%.
publishing a magazine for women that's never been done before.
Yeah.
AIDS has been devastating around the world. Being Jewish and being gay, and how it changed with AIDS for the man for sure, and it changed the relationships between the men and the women in the synagogue, and suddenly we all got closer because we needed each other. We came into each other's lives as grown-ups. I was in my 50s, we were both in our 50s. Met each other and we couldn't stop talking about everything. And we just were like, we liked each other so much. And it became obvious that we liked each other more than we liked anybody else in the world at the time. That's rare.
It really is. It really is.
Funny, articulate, smart.
Somebody that you just like click with.
You can just talk to them for hours about anything.
Yeah, that's so special.
We recorded ourselves. We registered as domestic partners in 2003. And then in 2013, it was interesting because I don't know that either of us felt a strong need to do it, except, and in fact our invitation said because we can. We felt like we needed to make a political statement. Here this huge opportunity had opened up, and and we really should jump right into it. I would say that the marriage thing for both of us became a much bigger badge of honor than we ever anticipated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The ethos of Judaism is tikkun olam, heal the world. I feel like a meaningful life is anything that you've done to leave the world a better place than it was when you got here. If you can leave this world better than the way you found it, that's one of the major tenets in Judaism, tikkun olam. Stay true to yourself. Live an authentic life, because you only get one time to do it, and this is it. And if you are going to deny yourself an authentic life because of other people's fears, judgments, hatefulness, whatever, you have to overcome that. You only get one time around. You've got to love who you want to love and do it right. You have to live an authentic life. There is no other life. Don't wait till it's too late. You just have to keep speaking up. Don't let people get away with things. Don't let people put you down. Don't let people change your values. Don't let people diminish you in any way. Think about me on that bicycle.
Exactly.
It's a good image. I keep it in